Good evening, Mr. Mayor. The first question I think that everyone in Ottawa is asking, and people across the country too, can you guarantee that this is not going to be a repeat of the Freedom Convoy?
Well, thanks, Catherine. We're in a much better position, much better prepared with this plan. We've had more notice, and a good example of that is we didn't swear in our CMP officers until midway through the occupation in February. We swore them in yesterday before this event even takes place. So we're better prepared. No one can give you a certainty that there will not be some problems, but we're going to have a very strong police presence in the central neighborhoods. No one's going to get on Wellington Street with a motorcycle or any kind of a vehicle that's completely blocked off. And we have severe parking restrictions. So if you want to get a parking ticket for your motorcycle or towed away, you're going to see that happen, because it's a zero tolerance policy, because our residents are not going to put up with the chaos and the hurt that they experienced during almost 4 weeks back in February with the truckers.
Mr. Mayor, you know some people are hearing you say that and saying, why on earth didn't you do that last time?
Yeah, and that's a very good question. Obviously, we were the first out of the gate, and other cities were able to better prepare than we were, that's for sure. That's why two of my colleagues, Councillors Hubley and Tierney, put forward a motion that we're going to have our Auditor General review all aspects of the occupation, where we failed, how we prevent this from happening in the future. There's no question about it. It was very, very destructive. It hurt our small business community. Residents were kept up at all hours of the day. And I asked these people who are coming to our nation's capital to please remember this is also a neighborhood. It's not just the Parliament buildings. People live in these neighborhoods, and we're going to crack down, for instance, if there's loud mufflers coming in from people driving motorcycles, they'll be in breach of the bylaw. If they're causing any kind of disruption, they're going to be dealt with quickly and swiftly, and there'll be no simple slap on the wrist or a warning. We're going to get serious and let people know, you want to come to the nation's capital peacefully, you're more than welcome. If you want to come and act like an idiot, you're not welcome, and we're going to deal with them.
Well, I do want to ask you about one aspect of your new plan. As somebody who covers Parliament Hill, I was on the Hill this week and I heard a Conservative MP saying, listen, they've got an exclusionary zone this time. Doesn't seem like it was so hard. What did we need the Emergencies Act for? What do you say in response to that line of argument?
Well, we needed the Emergencies Act for a number of reasons. It gave us the ability to remove children from a dangerous zone. It allowed us not to have to go through the ordeal of swearing in other officers as peace officers. It allowed us to confiscate tow trucks and force tow truck companies to come and move vehicles. These things couldn't be done. It's easy for an MP from another part of the country pontificating about what should have been done and what shouldn't be done. The Emergency Act helped us tremendously end the occupation relatively quickly, relatively peacefully, with no serious injury and no death. And I commend the police officers. We had, as you know, 1,800 police officers from across Canada helping us. We have OPP, RCMP, and other municipal police services coming in this weekend, and people will see in the residential neighborhoods a very strong police presence.
I will say, Mayor, that I'm certain some people hearing you say that might quibble with the idea that this was resolved quickly. Perhaps you mean quickly from the moment the Emergencies Act was invoked, but it certainly felt like it took a while to bring this to a conclusion. And I want to ask you a bit more about the review of what happened, though, and specifically something that Minister Marco Mendicino said this week when he was appearing before committee about the Emergencies Act. He acknowledged that the Ottawa Police Service's control of Wellington Street, so right in front of the Parliament buildings, for people who don't know the area, created policing challenges when dealing with the Freedom Convoy. Do you agree? You think that's a fair criticism of the Ottawa Police?
Well, I think it's a criticism of the fact that we have so many different jurisdictions that are responsible for different parts of the city. You go up on the Hill, it's the Parliamentary Protective Service. You go on to Wellington Street, it's a city street. You go on to Colonel By Drive or Sir John A. Macdonald Parkway, that's a federal street patrolled by the RCMP. We put forward a resolution that we sit down with all of the parties around the table and figure out how can we better protect the parliamentary precinct without making it Fort Knox, and how can we ensure that this kind of convoy that really was devastating to our community never happens again. Lots of jurisdictional problems, but at the end of the day, I didn't mean to say that the convoy was over quickly. When they moved in on the Friday, it was over very quickly, a day and a half basically until we cleaned things up. And we did need the Emergencies Act. So for members of Parliament to sort of pontificate and say, well, it wasn't needed, we're on the front lines. It was needed, and it helped us get a lot of issues resolved, including tow trucks, because the biggest issue was that we couldn't get these vehicles out of there because we didn't have the ability to force tow truck companies to come to our aid.
Just before letting you go, Mayor, we've only got a moment left, but I want to ask you about the cost of this event. As you mentioned earlier, more than 800 RCMP officers at the ready. Have you asked the federal government to do some cost sharing if this proves to be a bit of an extraordinary event?
Yes, and we've had very positive signals. I've talked to Marco, I've talked to other ministers. The bill for the first convoy was about $36.5 million. And we anticipate the federal government to cover that. Certainly if the province wants to chip in and help as well, that's welcome. And we're keeping all of our costs, extraordinary costs that we're incurring on behalf of Ottawa taxpayers to make sure that whatever costs we do incur, we do pass them along to the federal government, because we believe that these people are coming to protest the federal government, not the City of Ottawa. And while they have a right to do that, there's a cost, and it shouldn't be borne by Ottawa taxpayers. So I think most people understand that's the reasonable approach.
Okay. Well, we're going to leave it there, Mayor Watson, but obviously here in Ottawa and across the rest of the country, people will be watching to see how things play out over this weekend. Thank you for your time.
Right. My pleasure. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.